For the next 2 weeks, the best in tennis will be competing at the U.S. Open at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Queens. For some, like reigning champion Novak Djokovic, it is more than just the tennis that he feeds off of.
And U.S. Open is a slam that holds the biggest tennis court in the world, tennis stadium. You know, night sessions at U.S. Open are very famous, most famous in our sport. And I'm going to play my first match here on Monday night, so I can't wait to be under the lights. The noise, the energy of the stadium is just different from anything else. So, you know, I look forward to it.
And my guest this morning knows a lot about that sport. He has written 2 books on 2 of the greatest, on Roger Federer and on Rafael Nadal. Currently writing about tennis on Substack. Chris Clarey joins us now in the studio. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
A great pleasure to be here.
Is this work for you to be in New York for the U.S. Open?
That's a great question. That's one of my lines to my kids. I go, find a job that doesn't feel like a job, and I have to say that's been the way for me for almost 40 years. It's been a real privilege to be able to write about a sport that I like so much.
Who have you got your eye on this year?
I'm really interested, of course, to watch Djokovic. We say that every year, but this year especially, having just won the Olympics and having completed pretty much his entire career checklist. And yet, here he is. A lot of people thought he might not come at all, and he decided to give it a shot. And no preparation at a preparation tournament, but he came in and is going to give it his best, and I wouldn't count him out. So I'm definitely watching him, and I'm very curious to watch Coco Gauff, who's defending the title on the women's side and has really struggled in recent months to get the same kinds of results. We thought that might be a launching pad for her last year to be able to go to a higher level, and it really hasn't proven to be true. So this is a big tournament for her this year.
Steph, one of the things we've talked about, and you and I have found each other in the stands at the U.S. Open after these morning shifts, and you can really get a lot out of this tournament by getting away from an assigned seat in Arthur Ashe Stadium and just checking all the other action out.
Because as we've been saying, so many big names are on those side courts where you can get so close to the action. I guess, what is your advice for people who may not be like the biggest tennis fans, but are going to the Open, and how to enjoy it?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, honestly, the problem with the Open, sometimes on the outside courses, it's so popular, it can be very difficult to get close. So if you have a desire to get a feel for the speed of tennis and the power of tennis, which is one of the things you really benefit from being on site, no matter how good TV is, you can't sense that until you watch it courtside. The player's movement, the impact of the ball. So I'd almost pick a court on the outside courts if you have a grounds pass early, get there and kind of wait a while and get the real feel for the match as close as you can, and then you circulate a bit later. And those bridge times are always good, between the end of the day session and the start of the night session. There used to be more space there. But yeah, you definitely get close to it, because tennis is so much more impressive, I think, up close than it is from a distance.
I've interviewed a few of the top players in the last few days leading up to the tournament, and one thing that keeps coming up is this notion that there's a changing of the guard, particularly in men's tennis right now.
For sure. I mean, look at the guys who've won the Grand Slams this year. Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, both in their early 20s have won the majors. However, Djokovic is 37, 38. And he just won the Olympics and beat Alcaraz in probably the biggest match of the year. So we're not quite there yet on the men's side. And the women's side, it's very much several players are dominating. Above all, Iga Świątek, the Polish player who's won here before once and dominated on the clay. So I wouldn't, but the men's side for sure. In the rankings and overall, the young guys are taking over.
You were in Paris for the tournament, the Olympic tournament?
I was.
Is that one tournament too many in the summer?
Oh, there are probably several too many in the summer. But that's not even necessarily just this year that's the case. These players, with the grind of the tour, the travel, and now the competition, it used to be maybe the top players had some easy rounds. The easy rounds aren't there anymore. So it's a big grind, and some of the top players have talked about that. The sport has needed some change for a long time. There's some discussion, but nothing is concrete yet.
I talked to Casper Ruud about this when I spoke to him last week. There are so many distractions for a player in New York City, and one of the things he said is there are ways to seek out some calm amid everything in the city.
Well, it's a hectic city, that's for sure. So for athletes and tennis players, I think we enjoy the calmness. So we don't, at least me, I don't do too many things around in the city. I played around the golf the other day, which was nice, and I'm a big golf fan. So anytime I can get around in, I try to do it.
I would imagine the players have to manage that quite carefully.
It's a great point. I mean, I'm talking to Novak after he won the U.S. Open back in like 2016 or so. I remember saying, "So how do you do this?" Because he stays outside the city, in Connecticut, big sort of expansive place with a friend. And he said, "You know, in New York City, it gives me energy for a little while, and then it takes it away. So you got to find the balance of when it stops giving you energy and starts taking it away, and that's when you got to get out."
And that's what's been so impressive about Djokovic is how disciplined he can be. Some of the younger players might struggle with that more than, you know, he's figured out how to really lock in and be focused.
Yeah, it's true stuff. I think the thing about Novak, he has a lot of emotional intelligence. He really knows himself, and at this point, he knows how to dose his energy out. He knows where he needs to be at what time, and that's part of the benefit of experience, because that wasn't the case when he was young.
Well, we've got a lot of coverage planned at the Tennis Center. We will look for you there. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me in.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.